Hi, you guys, and welcome to lower appendicular. So I'm going to go through the bones of the lower appendicular skeleton. We're going to start out first. I'm going to follow along on your list that I've given you and start with the os coxae. So this, I only have half of one here, but if we look at the bone that makes up the pelvis, see, I have a right one here, a little bigger than the one on my little skeleton. And then I'd have a left on the other side, and they would join here at the pubic symphysis. So we want to start out looking at this bone. And the structures that I have on my list are, the first thing that we have to do actually is distinguish, this is originally made up of 3 separate bones. I'll come closer to the camera. It's made up of 3 separate bones. So this very top bone here, so if we're looking up here, this is the iliac, or the ilium. This down here is the ischium, holding it from the ischium. So ilium, ischium, and then I'm holding it from the pubic bone, pubis. Let's do that again. Ilium, ischium, and pubis. Okay? So on our list then, it's going to start out by showing you what structures are on the ilium. And I'll go in order. I'll read them off. So the first thing is the iliac fossa. So you can tell that it has a big indentation here, and this is the iliac fossa. Big region of the iliac. Next is the iliac crest. So it's from the ilium, it's going to be called iliac. So this is the iliac crest. That's kind of when you put your finger on your hip bone, you can feel it now. This is what you're feeling. You're feeling the crest of your ilium. You can tell everybody that now. Now the next 4 structures sound scary, but they're not really. So they are the posterior superior iliac spine, posterior inferior iliac spine. So posterior, so we're going to put this here like this again, and notice that what's posterior is back here, right? Posterior. So if this is posterior, and I have these 2 protrusions here, then it's the posterior superior iliac spine, or the posterior inferior iliac spine. It's kind of stick out 1, stick out 2. Okay? Superior and inferior. But the next one that we have is the anterior. So now let's go back to the shape that we are here. We're going to come to the front here. If I rotate it like that, you see the 2 spines. So now you have a anterior superior iliac spine, anterior inferior iliac spine. Oh my gosh. Let's do those again. If it's in the back, it's posterior superior iliac spine, posterior inferior iliac spine. If, however, we come to the front, we're going to have anterior superior iliac spine, anterior inferior iliac spine. Good? Spine, something sticks out, check your vocabulary list. After that, we have the greater sciatic notch. Greater sciatic notch. You can see that. Let me rotate it. This very big opening here is the greater sciatic notch. Okay? Greater sciatic notch. And the next structure that I have on my list is the auricular surface. Auricular surface is here. This auricular surface is rough. Do you remember where else we saw an auricular surface? It's exactly where it's going to form a joint with that. So it's going to form a joint. Let's turn this guy around. That auricular surface is going to form a joint with the auricular surface here of the sacrum. So both of them have an auricular surface because that's where they are going to butt up against each other. And remember, auricular is supposed to look like an ear. I don't know if it looks like an ear to you, but that's what that is. Okay? All right. Very good. So now I'm going to turn my page here and go on to what's on the ischium. A lot fewer, and what's on the pubis. So on the ischium, remember ischium we're talking about down here. The ischium is your sit bone. So if you've ridden a bicycle for too long, you have certainly felt your ischial tuberosity. So ischial tuberosity is this bone here that you sit on, ischial tuberosity. And the only other structure that you need to know is this sticking out here is your ischial spine. Ischial tuberosity, ischial spine. Both of these on this bone. Remember, it's fused to the point that you don't see the fuse lines, but it is a separate bone. Ilium, ischium, and pubis. Okay? So on the pubis, you need to see the pubic symphysis. So for there, I think it's actually easier to show it on this guy because it's where these two pubic bones come together, and that's where the symphysis is. So that's the pubic symphysis. And then the other two on the pubis are rami, which are branches, a ramus. So we have the superior branch, ramus, and inferior ramus. Superior ramus, inferior ramus. Now, not really on a specific one of those three bones is this big socket. That big socket is called the acetabulum. Acetabulum. How do you spell it? A-C-E. Okay, pronounced differently, but acetabulum. Okay, so we've just gone through all these structures that are on this bone that has various names. So we call it the pelvic girdle, or we call it the pelvis, or the innominate bone that it didn't have a name. So all of those names are used. The other one that's used is os coxae. So this is the os coxae. And we just went over all the structures from this bone. I'll try and have another video that has them drawn, and between those two, you should definitely be able to learn them. Thanks, guys.